Okay, it's my second attempt. I don't know what happened there, but it just stopped working for some strange reason or other. Maybe the fairies are at play. So it's a beautiful, beautiful good morning, and I'm just here by the little rustic arch, enjoying the beauty of the clematis flowers. You can hear the birds in the background. I've lit the stove. There's a bit of smoke coming out of the chimney there. Need to heat up the water to have a shower, and I've got some clothes to wash and bed linen to wash now that guests have gone. The old hand washing takes a fair amount of time, but it's a sort of a blowy day, which is quite good, although there's rain promised later, and that's quite good as well because I actually need to have the rain at the moment because there's been about a week of dryness, maybe more than a week. I'd have to check my journal to see the last time that it rained properly, not just a little mizzle or a drizzle. So it's lovely to be back here on YouTube and sharing the space with you, sharing the space that is Bealtaine Cottage. I think I need a second cup of coffee. So one of the things I've been looking at just over the past 24 hours or so since my guests left, one of the things I've been looking at is a short trip to London, just to catch up with friends and have a little bit of me time, because I find myself constantly outside of me and looking at other things and doing other things. And of course I try not to fly, and I have gone to London before on the coach, which isn't very comfortable because there's a 2-hour lag at one particular place in Dublin on the way back. So I have to wait for, I think it's about 2.5 hours between coming off the boat and getting the coach then back up home, which is a pretty dismal thing to do in a very old and crowded bus station in Dublin. At 6 o'clock in the morning when there's no facilities open. So I thought to myself, well, I'll try this time and do the real sail, which is a bit more expensive but is bound to be more comfortable. So I'm off down to Sligo later on to check it out at the railway station, because I tried to figure it out online and couldn't quite get an understanding of it. And of course the only question that would concern me, well, two questions. One would be, is there a time lag between getting off the boat and getting on the train to London? And the other one would be facilities to get from the train station to the ferry, because none of these services are tied in. None of these services appear to operate on a kind of a dovetail organisation plan. And so then I got thinking to myself about you know, back to the old story of climate change and all the stuff that's coming out now on the media and from governments about declaring a climate emergency and blah blah blah. And the reason why I say blah 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 is that they don't seem to be doing anything at all to encourage people away from plane travel, away from air travel, and onto coach and train travel. That really speaks volumes, does it not? Because it's like it's like having a child at school who isn't doing well at school, and they're messing about, and they're perhaps causing problems, and you know the scene if you've ever raised children, or you know of other people's children that have had difficulties at school. There's 101 reasons for why they're having difficulties. But what the good parent tries to do is to support the child by way of offering support at home. Trying to sort out problems. If it's a problem with reading, you try to get the child help, or you'll sit and read with the child, and you'll get more books into the house. All these matter of course things that we do to help, if not solve the problem, to ease the problem. So you only have to look at what's happening with climate change and all the blurb put out by governments. Words are meaningless. Words are actually meaningless. What makes a difference is actions. And here am I, just, a possible public transport traveller, and all I want to do is to travel in a low carbon footprint way from Ireland to London, from the west of Ireland to London. And the powers that be haven't even been able to work that one out into some kind of an easy to travel timeline. So to encourage people to go on to public transport and to put in place a good system, it doesn't have to be top of the range travel, but it should be a good system in terms of all the services tying in with one another, linking in with one another, and getting their timetables meshed together, But hey, I'm only talking common sense, and we know that common sense doesn't prevail in this world. So I may as well talk to myself. So we'll find out today anyway. My daughter has taken me down to Sligo, down to the train station, and I'll be able to ask all the relevant questions there, hopefully get some answers. So there's been this wonderful greening, the greening effect, which is now beginning to cast shade, which turns all these trees and shrubs and plants into what one perceives to be a true woodland. Because when you get that beautiful element of shade happening, it begins to look like a woodland. So the clematis is now about 50% in flower on the front wall of the cottage. So you can see how luxurious it is. And then if you look through the window there, you can see the roses on the veranda at the back of the cottage. And all the columbine, all the aquilegia, truly coming into its own now. I think there's going to be quite a long flowering period here because the temperatures haven't been massively high, which is quite good for the flowering because it allows it to have a more natural sort of eruption of bloom. So this is the beautiful valerian, the red valerian. And here we have some lovely purple columbine, aquilegia. And I think this is why it's called Granny's Bonnet. Or nicknamed Granny's Bonnet. And there's lots more valerian coming out round the stone there, the log and the stone. And now having to share the space with the oxeye daisies. When I was selling seeds, I posted out a massive amount of oxeye daisies. Absolutely scores and scores of packets of oxeye daisy. Now you can see the beautiful clematis there. Isn't that gorgeous? I think I'll take a little walk up round the side of the cottage and just show you what's happening here. So these are the little rustic beds. Just a very casual construction along the side wall. And now I'm looking at the Boston ivy. This is one of the Boston ivies planted. There's been a little bit of slug damage just on the tips, but sometimes that can make it much stronger, you know, once it gets established. The slugs seem to do a little bit of pruning, for want of a better word. And then there's more Boston ivy down in here, but I don't see much happening there with it. Quite often, new plants need to have a fair old bit of time in the ground in order to start their reckless behaviour, growing and growing. Very happy with this pieris here in the pot. That's really done well. And also the witch hazel there to the left of it. So let's have a look at this clematis. Happily sprawling up over the roof of the she shed. And even little bits down there coming into flower. Let's have a look at the other side. Yes, that's gorgeous. Now, as far as I can remember, this is the Clematis montana. M-O-N-T-A-N-A. Clematis montana. And from what I've observed, both here and, as I've gone along looking at other people's gardens and spaces, the Clematis montana seems to be very vigorous. It's a very vigorous one, and it flowers abundantly. And of course this one is growing out of these two tires. So, seems to be very happy, and the two tires placed onto the gravel. So that's a good way of growing it. And a very, very simple little framework quite a cheap and sort of cheerful little piece of trellis, and then a similar little piece just hooked onto the side there of the lodge, and then just nailed onto the side here of the shed. So it doesn't take a lot to create a little sort of little archway, although it's not arched. But it does make it look very pretty, very inviting, but also it kind of takes you beyond, you know, just there to Kilronan Mountain. It provides a little kind of a frame that takes the eye through that way. So, the dogwoods are a wee bit slow coming out here, but you'll be able to see them race ahead as the summer progresses. And of course you've got this beautiful colour happening round the back of the cottage. Lots of colour. Now the wisteria again is a wee bit behind this year. It's normally a wee bit more advanced than this. But again, the weather's been cooler, so that's one of the primary reasons I'd expect. So the Pieris here in the old milk churn has just given off itself relentlessly now for months, because we've had flowers that the bees have enjoyed and now the new leaf growth. And there's this amazing flower coming out here. Look at this. And then over there in the pot, that's the lemon verbena. And of course we've got roses happening. They're not out on this side of the trellis yet, because that's facing outwards. Lots of herb Robert there in the tires, which looks gorgeous as a base for the roses. But let's have a look on the inside of the veranda. We'll get a little shot of the roses. So look at this, aren't they gorgeous? All the way along there. So the roses cover about half of the veranda space now. Got some runners coming out here which I'll prune back, so all the intense food and water goes to the roses. So the grapevine's coming out. Little promise there of grapes happening. A little bit of mildew on these roses, but this happens every year. And I just leave them. I don't do anything at all. Just, you know, let them roll with it. And after a few weeks, the rose appears to sort of shake off the mildew and get on with its life. So, there you go. A non-interference policy can work very well. So lots and lots of flowers on the London Pride. This is the most beautiful little plant because the foliage on its own is gorgeous. And then up shoots these beautiful, delicate little flowers that look so gorgeous in flower arrangements. And that's something I've been doing as well, just collecting little wild flowers and garden flowers and putting them into little jam jars and simple, very simple little containers around the cottage. The simple is always the best and the most fulfilling in terms of beauty, because you know, we're inclined to try to find things to spend money on, and we can end up with a lot of stuff And it's that stuff which takes away just from the ordinary everyday beauty of life, you know. So less is definitely more. It certainly is in my book anyway. Less is more. Talking about books, I'll be able to get on now with my writing. And some little rhododendron flowers. Again, the rhododendron is accused of being a hugely invasive species here in Ireland. This one's been here for 15 years now, and it struggles. Of course, they do like to have an acid soil, and I know that most of the soil here is not acid, and so of course they find it very hard to invade when they don't have the right conditions. But also, which I think is more important, if you look around this rhododendron, there's a lot of very strong planting, and I also do a lot of very heavy mulching, so it doesn't really get a foothold, but does reward me with these beautiful flowers each year. There's quite a lot of flowers about to come out on that. So I'll just go down to this entrance on the fairy wood and leave you with this image for the day, because there's a little fella there waiting for a W-A-L-K. No, he can't spell that word yet. He's thinking about it. So I do want to get him down and out for a little walk. Now, also look, there's some buds. In fact, not just some buds. There's a complete bevy of buds going on there. On the spindle. That's the spindle bush. That comes into its own mostly in late summer and early autumn. Now, talking about the word bevy, I was looking for a collective noun. It was a few days ago. I was talking to my son-in-law and looking for a collective noun for something specific. Anyway, oh, that was it. Swans. And you know what the collective noun is for swans? A bevy of swans. B-E-V-Y. So that got me hooked into a little rabbit hole entitled Collective Nouns, and I found some bizarre words, bizarre collective noun names for animals and species. Really bizarre. So I'll leave you with this little image of the steps down into the fairy wood, and continue on with my day. And don't forget all the links for the Bealtaine Cottage books, which are printed here in Ireland and posted from Ireland. No Amazon involvement, no corporate raking off of profits. Those links are just below this video. So if you just scroll down below the video, and if you want to buy a book from Bealtaine, that's where you'll find them, including maps and other things. So blessings to you all. Have a lovely day. I'm so happy to be back. Blessings.